So I landed in Cayman on Tuesday, and this is now Friday, which means this is my third full day here on the island, and I've been thinking lots of questions. Saw my name Pastor Jason on paper for the first time, and that was just kind of really cool, but it reminded me of my responsibility, my duty, what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm trying to start a youth ministry in a place where there hasn't been a youth ministry before. And so that raises the question, how do you start a youth ministry? Which is another way of asking the question of how do you start a ministry just to younger people? And then that just raises the question, well, what is ministry? And when I think about that question, it's really helpful for me to think about this spot right here. It was here, sitting in chairs right around here, about 3 years ago, that I came here with the pastor of the church, Bosun Bay Presbyterian, and we had our interview. I interviewed for the position of youth pastor, and it was after we had gone out there snorkeling, saw some amazing fish, coral, squid, turtles, just like something you would see in an aquarium, but just for free out there. So we went out here, we did that, and then we came back here and we just talked about my life, we talked about ministry, and if I might be a good fit for bringing the first youth ministry to Bosun Bay. And now, 3 some years later, here I am. So what is ministry? Ministry is, in some ways, it's a looking back and seeing how God has been faithful. That it's been a weird, long 3 years or so. Some of it's been tough, some of it has not been good. Some of it I'm not proud of, the way I dawdled and dwindled some of my time, that I wasted a lot of effort, wasted a lot of just hours on the computer, hours with the television, just waiting instead of working. But God has been faithful. God has brought me here, at least for now. And remembering His goodness, His faithfulness, is a big part of what ministry is. It's looking back. And this is an interesting spot for looking back too, because right over here, I can show you something that's part of looking back at this church's history. This is a sea grape tree. Sea grape trees are more common in Cayman here than palm trees. So you think tropics, probably think palm trees. But in Cayman, sea grape trees really line the coastline. I'll show you some here. And here it is. So these are sea grapes. And it was 74 years ago, under a sea grape tree in West Bay, that the Bosun Bay Presbyterian Church was started. That was a Sunday school that missionaries from downtown hiked over. There were no roads, there were no paths, so they hiked through the woods and found Bosun Bay and the people that lived there, and saw that there was no church and saw that there was a great need for Christian education. So they started a Sunday school under the sea grape tree. That's how the lore tells it. They tell the story of, I was one of the children under the sea grape tree, and I have how that God has been faithful. The 74 years later, there's a church. And then if you keep looking a little further, here's the graveyard. This is called Cemetery Beach in Cayman. Cayman's mostly rock and sand, and so you have to bury people in the sand and not the rock, and that's mostly near the beach. So it's an interesting place to go to have a great fun time, kind of this close to something that people tend to associate with sadness and not so much a fun time. But this is yet another way in which we can look back and how we see that God has been faithful. That this is generations and generations. This is the Bosun people. This is the West Bay people. These are the people of Grand Cayman. God has used their story to bring us here, bring us to this moment in time in history. And by remembering them rather than just ignoring them, by honoring them rather than just discarding them, we're doing this act of remembering. And then, like I said, that's a large part of what ministry is. It's remembering. And so that's one of the main things, is that we call people in ministry. So how do I start a ministry? How do I start a youth ministry? It's by calling people to remember 2,000 years ago what Christ accomplished on the cross, is that the King of glory became ruin, became shame, became sin, guilt, all of that, so that one day he might fill the earth with his glory. That's the other part of ministry. So we look back to the cross because it's there that we find the bedrock, unchanging grounds of our confidence, and then that causes us to look forward. We look forward to glory. We look forward to God filling the whole earth with the glory that he gave up on the cross. And that gives us the confidence that I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, how do I start this ministry? In the back of my mind, that question is, can I start a ministry? Do I have what it takes? Am I smart enough, skilled enough, or charismatic enough? Can I be organized enough to draw this? And God hasn't promised that this ministry is going to happen, but as we look backwards and remember the cross, and as we look forward and imagine glory, we have God's promise that he will build his kingdom. That this is something that God will gather his people. God will draw his people to himself, and that God will sanctify them. He will, and then one day glorify them. That this is confidence. And so all those questions, am I enough questions, become sort of irrelevant when we're remembering and looking forward and imagining the glory. That we have a bedrock faith in Christ. That because of who he is and what he did, all my fears, they don't go away, but my fears become unimportant. So stick with me. Follow me on this journey. We're going to document so that we might, look back to where it started with me, with the church, with the Cayman people, and then really look forward to where God is taking everything. I'm so excited, and I'm glad you're along on this journey with me. Thanks.